What if the news you have watched your entire life was not journalism? What if it was scripted, produced, and approved by intelligence agencies before it ever reached your screen? Operation Mockingbird was the CIA's classified program to place paid operatives inside America's most powerful newsrooms. To plant stories. To kill stories. To manufacture public opinion on an industrial scale. The Church Committee confirmed it in 1975. What they found should have been front-page news. It was buried on page 14. Before we go further, understand the scale. At its height, Operation Mockingbird had documented relationships with reporters and editors at the New York Times, CBS, Time Magazine, Newsweek, and dozens of other major outlets. Not every journalist knew they were working for the CIA. Some did and were paid handsomely. Some simply took the briefings, the access, the scoops, and asked no questions about where the information came from. That arrangement suited everyone involved. Everyone except the public. The program was born in 1948. Frank Wisner, head of the CIA's Office of Policy Coordination, recognized a problem. The Soviet Union had mastered state propaganda. America had a free press. To Wisner, this was not a strength. It was a vulnerability. His solution was elegant in its ruthlessness: do not suppress the press. Infiltrate it. Guide it. Make it a tool of foreign policy while allowing it to believe it was completely independent. Wisner was exceptionally well connected. He had attended school with powerful newspaper editors, served alongside foreign correspondents during World War II, and moved in the same social circles as Washington's most influential publishers. He offered journalists something no business could match: access to secrets, exclusive sources, and stories no competitor could get. In exchange, those journalists occasionally reported what the CIA needed reported, and occasionally did not report what the CIA needed buried. By the early 1950s, the CIA had established relationships with assets in virtually every major American news organization. Foreign correspondents were particularly valuable. Placed in strategic locations, they could file stories that shaped American understanding of entire regions. A correspondent in Iran could frame a CIA-backed coup as a popular uprising. A correspondent in Guatemala could describe an agency operation as a democratic revolution. And both of those things happened, exactly as described, in American papers. The operation worked in both directions. The CIA planted stories it needed published and suppressed stories it needed killed. A fabricated account of Soviet military buildup could justify a defense budget increase. A real story about a CIA assassination plot could be killed at the editorial level before it reached print. This was not censorship in the traditional sense. It was something more sophisticated and more dangerous: the manufacture of reality through the selective management of what was considered news. The Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961 stands as a documented case study. CIA media assets spent months building a false picture of Cuba as a country on the verge of popular revolt, desperate for American intervention. The stories were fabricated. The sources were CIA officers presenting themselves as independent analysts. Americans read those stories over breakfast and believed Cuba was about to collapse. The invasion failed catastrophically. Coverage of the failure was managed with equal precision. The 1953 CIA coup in Iran removed the democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh and reinstated the Shah. American newspapers reported it as a spontaneous popular uprising against a dangerous communist. Not a word about CIA involvement. That version of events remained the official American narrative for 60 years. In 2013, the CIA officially admitted its role. By then, 2 generations of Americans had been taught a fabricated version of history, because the CIA had made sure those fabrications appeared in their morning papers. The first crack appeared in 1967. Ramparts magazine revealed the CIA had been secretly funding the National Student Association as a front group. Congress took note. The Church Committee hearings of 1975 investigated further. What investigators found in CIA files was staggering: hundreds of documented relationships with journalists. Payments, briefings, story approvals, and editorial influence spanning 2 decades. CIA Director William Colby confirmed the program. He claimed it had ended. He did not release the full list of journalists involved. Carl Bernstein, who had helped break Watergate, published a massive investigation in Rolling Stone in 1977 documenting Mockingbird in detail. He named journalists. He named outlets. He documented specific stories the CIA had planted. The response from the journalism establishment was largely to attack Bernstein rather than investigate his findings. The organizations he implicated did not seriously examine his evidence. The industry protected itself. Congress held hearings. New guidelines were issued. The underlying relationships were not severed. Today, a significant percentage of analysts who appear on cable news as independent experts are former CIA, NSA, or military intelligence officers. Their agency backgrounds are disclosed. Their ongoing relationships with those agencies are not. They are presented as neutral observers. They are former operatives of organizations with ongoing institutional interests in how events are framed and understood. The infrastructure Mockingbird built did not disappear when new guidelines were issued in 1976. It professionalized and became normal. The CIA's formal policy ending the use of accredited journalists as paid operatives was issued in 1976. The policy said nothing about unaccredited contributors. Nothing about relationships already established over decades. Nothing about the revolving door between intelligence agencies and media organizations. Nothing about former officers who moved into editorial positions. Nothing about the practice of giving select outlets exclusive access to intelligence information in exchange for favorable coverage. The policy closed one door and left all the others open. The next time a major story breaks and the narrative feels uniform across every outlet simultaneously, ask the questions Mockingbird forces us to ask. Who benefits from this story being told exactly this way? Why are all these independent journalists reaching identical conclusions at the same moment? Why is the inconvenient detail buried in paragraph 14 when it should be the headline? Mockingbird ended officially in 1976. The habits, relationships, and institutional incentives it created have never ended. This is the Redacted. Think for yourself.